Good morning, everybody. It's Tom Christie back in the carving shop, and this will be session 5 of carving a Hen Pintail Decoy. In the previous sessions, we got the bird to this level, and in today's session, I want to deal with this seam from where we hollowed the decoy out, deal with the neck seam, get the bottom finished, get the keel weighted, do some flotation tests, and basically finish up the bird so that she's ready to paint. If you're enjoying my channel, please hit the subscribe button. That does help me out. Doesn't cost anything, but it is a show of support for the channel that I'm putting together. I'd appreciate it. All right, let's take a look at next steps. First thing I want to do is use my grinding equipment and just kind of go along this seam, take off any excess epoxy and any mismatch I have between the upper and lower section. And I'm going to use an old saber-tooth bit for that purpose. This is one that I use strictly for this purpose because this epoxy has a tendency to get stuck in the teeth. And so I use an old bit for that job to get it done. So let's go to the carving bench, get that material removed. Okay, I'm just going to hit this lightly. I don't want to remove wood. I just want to peel off the excess epoxy. And this will also rough up the area a little bit because I want to put some Bondo over this to hide the seam permanently. And that'll give us a little bit of texture for the Bondo to adhere to. So I'm just going with a light touch. Go around the perimeter of the bird. I had a little bit of a mismatch between the wood, and that happens when you bandsaw pieces apart. There's going to be a natural mismatch because of the wood. The width of the kerf of the bandsaw is now gone, so that creates a little bit of a mismatch between the two pieces. Not much, but we want to blend that back out so that we have a good transition between the upper and lower pieces. And I like to wait overnight to do this because I really want that two-part epoxy to set up and be as hard as possible. It just, if you do it too quickly, it can be pretty gummy and really gum up your equipment. So I want that epoxy to set well before we do this step. You can see there's a pretty good seam there, pretty tight seam, but I like to use the Bondo just to assure that the seam is hidden. Now I'm going to switch to, once again, an older burr. This is a flame-shaped burr that is going to be better for this area around the neck to remove the epoxy. And you can see as I positioned the head, I had a little bit of a mismatch at the back of the neck. I'm going to take care of that as I use the Bondo to fill that in. Now I'm going to use 80 grit sandpaper, just rolled up, and take out all the burr marks. And I'm using 80 grit because it'll do this job a little quicker. I'll do the entire perimeter that way and the neck. All right, I'm going to use a very thin coat of Bondo. Use a little piece of plastic and apply that over the seam and try to feather it out to the surrounding areas. You may not need to do this. I just find at times the seam can translate through paint if there's even a minor offset or flaw, so this helps really bury that seam so it can't be seen. So I need to work fast as Bondo sets up quickly, so I'll do this around the entire perimeter, also the neck joint. Once the Bondo sets, then I'm going to use a little flame-shaped burr here, and just with a very light touch, I'm just taking off any clumps or ridges or high spots in the Bondo, and then I can finish the job with sandpaper. But this makes quick work, and it's important to let the Bondo set before you do this. Makes it a lot easier to remove. So just a very light touch. I'll go around the entire perimeter like this. You can see I've already done that on the neck joint. And then we'll finish the job with sandpaper, as I said. All right, that's probably enough. You get the picture. I'll go around the entire decoy and then come back. Before I do that, I'll do the sanding as well. Okay, I've got the seams taken care of, and that looks good. Now I want to finish the bottom of the decoy, get it branded, and get it sealed up so we can test float it. Going to use my belt sander just to quickly smooth off the bottom of the decoy and finish the bottom. And I do that just by rocking it back and forth across the belt. This will take a little bit of time. It's still got a little spot there. That looks pretty good. Now that I have the bottom smoothed off, I've got my little fixture for marking the water line. I've got it set to the depth according to my pattern that I want it to float at, and I want to strike a line around the bird at that level so that when I do the float test, I'll know right where I want to be. All right, I've got the branding iron heated up. Get a brand on the bird. I'm going to seal the bird with Prolux semi-gloss, and I give it about 4 to 5 coats. Let it dry between coats. Really get a good seal on the entire carving. I've got my respirator on, so I'm doing a voiceover here. So I'll get that done and then come back. All right, I've got the keel taped on with electrician's tape, centered. I've got about 3 ounces of lead. I'm going to try to crowd the front to see. Most puddle ducks, they need the weight up front because this tail tends to drop. Let's see how we're doing here. That is right on the line. Looking pretty good. Let's see if it's going to self-right. That looks pretty good. Try it on the side. Sometimes they get, no, that's going to self-right. I think that looks good. Should do the trick. If anything, I'm going to crowd a little more weight up front, just so the breast nestles and the tail is not dragging at all. So there's room to get a couple pieces of lead right in this area. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to use a 3/4 inch Forstner bit to drill some pockets here for the weights I want to add to the keel. And I'm just watching how deep I set these so I don't drill into the keel anchor line hole. I'm going to put another pocket of weight right here and put that just on the other side of the hole for the keel screw. And I'm going to take that down lower in the keel. So I'm going to set my depth accordingly so I don't punch through the bottom of the keel, but I get the weight down as low as possible. I ended up with 5 ounces of total weight crowded the front, and I've got a little Tupelo plug here so that I can put these weights down as low as possible and plug that hole so it's watertight. Now I'll epoxy all that together. You don't have to watch me do that, but 2-part epoxy will finish the keel. Just a quick shot of the keel after epoxying the weights in place. I'm going to let that cure. I've got a little bit of epoxy to shave off there, and then we'll get the keel mounted. Now I'm going to drill those keel screw holes through the oak blocks that we mounted. And now I'm using Lexel, kind of a silicone adhesive, and I've coated the screws. I've also coated the areas around the screw holes so that we get a good seal. Make sure I'm in the right position here. There we go. And I can drive those home now. And those will go right through the oak blocks that we put internal, so we get a nice firm keel attachment. It's definitely firm. Keel attachment. I can really tighten those down. And we've got some of the silicone squeezing out, and that's good. That way I know I have a good seal around the screw holes and just wipe that off with a piece of paper towel. All right, it's starting to look like a decoy. I'm going to let that Lexel cure and then do another float test to make sure I'm happy with the way things are floating. And then we'll get the decoy primed and ready to paint. Here's a shot of the finished primed bird in overhead lighting just to give you a feel for how it turned out. All right, everybody, that's a wrap on the Hen Pintail project. I got the bird primed with just a gray primer ready to paint. I won't be doing a painting video series on this bird because I have a painting video, 50-minute painting video available on my website at tomchristyart.com on painting a hen pintail. So I'll be referring to that video as I go ahead and paint this. But if you're interested in that, jump over to tomchristyart.com. Use the contact form there to send me an email, and then we can talk about the details of the video purchase. That website is not very sophisticated commercially, so I just do everything by email, and that works out. All right, I hope this has been helpful. I've really enjoyed working on this bird with you. Have fun out there. Good carving to you. Carve wildfowl. It's a lot of fun. See you later.